The only age, this is the first time I've been 44 years old. I was kind of telling you this earlier. So, what's the difference like for you? I can tell the difference of what happened from the 20s to 30s to 40s. That's what I can speak on. Like in my teens, right. In the Army, energy, going, eating pizza. You don't worry about it. Nothing happens. I can eat 2 large pizzas in a night. Next day, I still have my six-pack. It doesn't matter, right? Energy in the 20s, and then 30s, flexibility, 40s, bones, back. What do you notice? But also I notice with experience of negotiation, leverage, how to go into different boardrooms, how to read different personalities on the business end. But what was the biggest difference going from 20s, 30s, 40s? Was there something that you can point to?
Well, when you're in your 20s, you think you're going to live forever, and you just, you can do anything you want. But by the time you're in your 40s, your life pattern is largely set. In other words, if you're 44 years old, you're probably going to be on a path towards success or not success. Generally, entrepreneurs at 55 don't start new companies and they change their life. It happens, but generally not. Yeah. So, I read, the reason I started Carlyle was I read that an entrepreneur will start his or her company between the ages of 28 and 37. Obviously, there are Mark Zuckerberg's and Bill Gates' exceptions, but 28 and 37. I read that when I was 37. So I said, I better start something. I'll never be an entrepreneur.
Interesting.
So you're now 44. You're on a path towards a certain level of success, and if you continue this path, no doubt in your 50s you'll be even more successful. Had you not started what you're doing now, and you try to do this when you're 50, it might be harder to get started because by then you've got kids who are older you got to deal with, you've got more financial challenges, all kinds of other things. Now you can get this going, and you're on a path towards success. When you hit 50, you know that most likely you've lived more than you're going to live. And you have to look at things a little bit differently. When you're 44, you can say, well, maybe I'll make it to 88, so maybe I'm only halfway through. But, people have, 40th birthday parties. That's when they kind of say, I'm really moved into adulthood. I'm really a real adult now. I can't pretend I'm a kid anymore. Yeah. So when you're 44, you're young. On the other hand, if you were a professional athlete at 44, you would be, you'd be gone.
Oh, you're done.
I mean, how many professional athletes other than
Tom Brady
are there playing any sport at the age of 44? So while you're young looking now, if you were a professional athlete, you would be seen as too old.
Yeah, I'd be being asked to be a head coach or assistant coach or something like that, hopefully, if that's what you want to do. What to expect in 50s, 60s, 70s?
Well, as you get older and you're successful, people will treat you with more respect, presumably, if your success continues. Also, you have more of a responsibility to give back. You're going to mentor people more and more. And ultimately, you got to figure out what you're going to do with your wealth. You can build a pyramid to how great you are. You can buy yachts and so forth, or you can give some of it away. And you have to figure out how do you want to use that wealth in an intelligent way and be a good role model for your children.
Any blind spots to look out for? Any blind spots? So be careful with this, be careful with that, be careful with this.
Hubris. When people tell you how great you are, you got to be discounting that because very few people are that great. There are very few real geniuses that are floating out there or people that really changed the world. So, Darwin may have changed the world. Einstein changed the world. But we shouldn't think that we're going to be Darwin or Einstein just because we made a lot of money.
Got it. Hubris. I just read this book by Jim Collins. What's
How the Mighty
Fall. And what was the first step? Was it hubris? Was number one?
Number one. Yep.
Hubris is what causes people to fall. So compounding. The other thing I want to talk about is compounding. When you're really working hard, you're doing your part, like, oh my God, I'm so like fun, putting so much effort on the front. You go, first time I ever made $100,000, six-figure. Oh my God, like this is amazing. Will I ever make $1 million? And then grinding, you make $1 million. I'm like, but that's amazing. I'm making $1 million. I'm in the top, 0.5% of America. This is sick. But I don't know if I'll ever get to 10. Will my business ever get there? So I don't think we got to 10 million, dude. But there's no way I'm going to get to the hectare side. When did you know, like, listen, the likelihood of me being a billionaire in the next 13 years is very high. You're a math guy. So far, you've done a bunch of different things. That's math. I said 1.8, 2.2. You said combined, we had 4.0. You said 44 years old, 88, 50. You're not thinking. So everything in your mind, and I know you're a math guy yourself as well. But at what point did you say, I think I'm going to be this within, because you're a numbers guy. So I know the typical, the humble. So I never thought about being a billionaire. That was never part of the goal. I totally get that. I understand that's not part of the goal. But it is a milestone. When did you say, at this point, if I go at this rate, we're probably going to reach that number?
Probably when I was maybe 15 years into starting Carlyle. I started when I was 37, so probably when I was early 50s, I said, okay, this is going to be one of the larger private equity firms in the world, and as an owner of it, I'll probably do well. But I didn't obsess over it. And, when Forbes puts out these lists, then people pay attention to you. So my children didn't really know the level of my wealth until Forbes comes out and publishes a thing. And that's true with your neighbors. My neighbors, I'm living in the same house now for 35 years or so, and people, they don't really know what I do that much, and maybe a little bit. But, one day they might read the Forbes and say, hey, this guy is worth X billions of dollars, and he's living around taking out his garbage just like us. So, but in the end, it's like anything in life. When you pass it through, you go into the next thing. If you obsess over being it, now there are a couple people who obsess over being on that list. I won't mention them, but there are people who have sued Forbes for not being on the list or not being high enough on the list. But if you obsess over your numbers, it's a mistake. You can't confuse your net worth with your self-worth. If you basically just say, I'm worth X dollars and therefore I'm really great, that's a mistake. Don't worry about your net worth. Worry about what you're really doing with your life. That's much more important.
Very interesting. And yeah, I've heard the stories about people suing Forbes for either being too low or too high, and not on the list, not too high, not on the list, but interesting. So with all the craziness taking place, I believe future looks bright. If you believe future looks bright, get your latest Future Looks Bright hat of Valuetainment. It says Future Looks Bright here, Future Looks Bright here. We got them in white, we got them in black, we got them in red. Our black on black sold out. These are about to sell out. If you haven't ordered one yet, we had a person in Michigan, bought one, then he bought three. Then when those three people weren't in the office, they had to order 58 of them because people wanted the Future Looks Bright hat, especially during times like this, because ain't nobody saying Future Looks Bright. To order your Future Looks Bright hat, click over here. And to watch the entire podcast, click here. Take care, everybody.